When Time Becomes Lost is the fourth full-length album from Hemotoxin. This is a California-based progressive death metal band, mostly kind of a solo project at this point, but he's brought in some session musicians to flesh out this record. Him being Michael Chavez, who is a current guitarist in Ripped to Shreds and also a thrash metal band Condition Critical, who I think are based out of New Jersey if I remember correctly. The focus of this band is not entirely old school, but certainly that is where they started and connected with music back as teenagers in high school. The more sound era of progressive death metal and technical thrash metal around that era is really their big focus and point of influence. If you understand the language of death and any associated band, but also you kind of grew up in the era of bands like Vector and Revocation, this is a natural result of that era. If you're a fan of like a band like Madrost or something like that, that's a similar kind of take, those influences in some respects. They really got that right. And in the past, I think that the most unique release from this band, Restructure the Molded Mind, was this kind of brutal, technical, but still a death thrash record kind of thing. It was a really unique record for its time. It was less of a traditional record in some respects than this one is today due to the pandemic. Essentially, Chavez has moved on into his own singular vision. What ends up happening when he's kind of left without any of those reigns of collaboration is something that is authentically early 90s progressive death metal meeting up with the early 2010s point of inspiration for sound and the extrapolation of in a slightly more modern way. We'll listen to a song here and get a sense for what I mean.
Distant voices, they follow me, entrenched in torture, subconsciously. Within the mind.
If you are already a fan of Hemotoxin, I think the first thing you're going to notice is that Scott Fuller is now their drummer on the session for this record. His work, he plays in some thrash metal bands and various projects, but basically he's best known for playing on Thy Kingdom Come, the most recent Morbid Angel album. So we know what he can do based on that record, and he brings some of that technical aggression and the abruptness of his style into this record in a way that it keeps this record from sounding too much like independent thought patterns and pulls it into almost a early monstrosity level of abruptness on a lot of these songs. Otherwise, he's got enough finesse in a lot of his patternation that they can also work on kind of a Terminal Redux era Vector level in terms of presenting progressive metal by way of technical thrash metal. So the death thrash metal spirit of the band is still there, but this is much more of a progressive death metal record when we strip it back to a basic statement. What we get most often here that is out of the ordinary or developed further here is a looseness, a sense of movement which is easier. It's less of the congested, technical as possible, constant challenge that was those earlier records from the band, and now he's just letting it flow a little bit better. And I think that it not only makes for a better listening experience and one that's less focused on like a competitive edge, but also something that is just a little bit more appreciable in its artistry as both something that's a little bit classic, a little bit new and modern. And I think that translates pretty well when you're influenced by a band like Death. So a very succinct 33-minute record that covers a lot of bases with a lot of intensity and does a lot to the point where if he had thrown on one more song, it would be too much. It'd feel too busy. So for me, that's the right length, a very well considered album, great style. There's no sense of fatigue with it because it flows so well, but there's still a sense of aggression. There's some muscular attitude to it where it still feels like death metal. It still feels like potent, but freely moving progressive death metal album, and it really stands out because of that choice to stay succinct. So I appreciate that choice most of all because it led to a lot more listens on my part and appreciating the details as I'm prone to do. Solid record, certainly a high recommendation. Definitely worth checking this out. It is one of the more notable records in May. It releases next week on May 17th. And check out some of the preview songs here on the site. Read my review and then see what you think when it releases.
The damage done.